Here is over 1 hour of some of the most wild Baki hot takes, questions relating to power scaling, the demons related stuff in the Baki world, many questions about Yuichiro Hanma, the ogre, Pickle, Jack, the future of Baki, what's currently going on, what happened in the past. If everything you need will be provided in today's video. Welcome to Baki hot takes from the Discord. To begin, we have a lot of discussion about the Demon Brain, in particular these two. This dude claims that Demon Brain Baki would humiliate full power Masashi. There's quite a few issues with this. The first thing is Baki technically from what we've seen should always have the Demon Brain, and secondly we don't know exactly what it does. The series has not told us at all. And on that note, I've seen this image going around the fandom recently. Technically, this isn't from a manga directly associated with the Baki universe like most of the other side things, just a goofy comedy one, but it does have a reference to the Demon Brain in it and that whole scene we got to see in the manga, which as a reminder was in Baki Hanma Son of Ogre chapter 184. And one of the most interesting lines we got in this chapter when Dr. Kureha got pretty much the best brain surgeon or brain specialist in Japan to look at Baki's brain, he right away questioned if the owner of this would really be from the human race, saying the owner of this brain must be one real demon, which does connect to some theories about the Hanma family and how they may not exactly be human considering these ancient Egyptian images shown during the father-son fight. Also, when looking at other things, most notably the demon back associated with the Hanma blood, and even Yujiro's skeleton, which is akin to a monster, not really human-like at all. Therefore, perhaps we're going to get a demon arc in the future of the Baki world. That will definitely be something else. And now coming back to the hot takes, this dude says that Baki's demon brain is not a power-up, it's a result of training. I more so agree with this. My current theory that I've had for a while now is that the demon brain connects to Baki's imagination ability, the thing he's the best at using within the Bakiverse, how he was able to overcome and technically defeat his father by making Yujiro believe in his imagination. It also could be connected to Baki's endorphin activation he does throughout the series. Various possibilities. Hopefully we get something revealed in the future of the story. Yuichiro Hanma is somewhere between rank 1 and rank 10. He could literally be anywhere with how little we know. Pretty much agree. The scene about him getting his jaw broken by Doppo could be the case, but based on how he was acting, it was probably more so joking around. At least if I had to place my bets, it would probably be more on that side. I hope we get to learn more about him, but if we're being fair, he does have one of the most impressive feats within the entire Bakiverse. Of course, surviving all these bombings on this small island and actually almost forcing the USA to chuck a nuke at him alone, which is absolutely crazy. Tokigawa never ages. If we're being fair, we can say a similar thing about most Baki characters. Since the conclusion of the maximum tournament to current Baki, it's been less than 2 years. That includes Yujiro meeting all the new US presidents. Who knows what's going on with all that. Kakukaro Zhao Li would tank Sukune's ancient sumo. So with this, I would say it could be the case. My current view is that since the Yujiro vs Kaku fight, every relevant character has got a pretty insane amount stronger. So much so, you could say a lot of them are stronger than what Yujiro was back then. I'm not saying they're a match for current Yujiro. It's more so the argument that someone like Hanayama would be physically stronger than what Yujiro was when he faced the Chinese boy. But even with all of that said, if the ogre did use Zhao Li in his exchange with Sukune in this one moment here, you could argue Kaku Zhao Li would work the same way against Sukune's ancient sumo, meaning he could potentially win. So for now, I'll say this is a maybe. He could tank a few blows, but I wouldn't say that means he could win the fight as an example. And now in reference to my downplaying of Kaku, some could say, saying a similar thing about Masashi isn't really the same, as it would take take like 20 years from now to be comparable, as a lot of people need to remember at what time YUICHIRO vs Kaku actually occurred when looking at the entire Baki timeline and all these years of chapters coming out. Also on that note, it's been 2 arcs since the Musashi arc, and even currently in Baki Rahan, we're getting mention of Musashi, showing his impact and his importance a little more than what we did for Kaku. For instance, after the Rattay tournament arc, we got a panel like this, which could be used to argue that characters like Doppo and Goki are at Kaku's level, even during the Ali Jr. arc, which is pretty crazy. While the Suma arc had a moment where YUICHIRO punched Sukune, pretty much knocked him out, but he didn't fall headfirst into the ground, leading Tokugawa to be like, oh yes, even Musashi would respect this sumo boy. Not really the same thing when comparing it to how Kaku has been treated in the world. But still, again, as time goes on, characters will continue getting stronger. That's why it's a possibility that Jack could be above Musashi now, but who knows if we're being realistic. Baki outscales the Demon Slayer verse. I agree with this. A few years ago I made a Masashi Miyamoto vs Demon Slayer video. I pretty much agree with most points I've made in this video. There is pretty sound argumentation to say Baki characters, especially the high end, would absolutely beat up anyone in Demon Slayer. There's arguments for the other side as well, but I think it's not impossible to say that this is the case. If Dorian were to be brought back and got modern scaling, he would low to mid diff Sukune. It's just a terrible matchup. Imagine Sukune being lit on fire or getting his hands chopped off. That's low-key the case for a lot of matchups against Dorian. He is probably the dirtiest fighter in the Bakiverse. Who knows what he's going to pull out, and if he was comparable to the current standards of Baki characters in raw stats, with the use of all these tactics, he'll definitely be the ultimate menace. YUICHIRO is mountain to island level. This is based off the multiple times and his character profile, the author himself stating that YUICHIRO is stronger than nuclear weapons. Yes, this is the case. We have so many statements now of YUICHIRO being above nukes or above every weapon, which of course would include nukes. If you were to take this as it said, you could get him into this range of power, potentially higher if you say it's every nuke that every country owns or something crazy like that, but officially, no nuke has ever been dropped on a Baki character. The most we've gotten is this on YUICHIRO Hanma, with pretty sound arguments that YUICHIRO is stronger than his father, putting him above anything like this, so crazy stuff. I'm fine agreeing with this level of scaling. Keiha is the interesting. Animated Musashi arc is going to be the best animated arc of Baki so far. I truly hope so. I wanted the same thing for the Baki vs Kengan anime film, a literal film, but again, very poor animation. Even the Baki vs YUICHIRO fight didn't get the justice I believe it deserved. There are key moments throughout all the Baki seasons that are pretty good, but the standard is not comparable to any other top level anime, especially considering how popular Baki is on big platforms like Netflix. You would think they would make it look better or put more effort in the animation. The same studio that's done all the recent anime seasons and the Baki vs Kengan crossover have confirmed that they're working on Baki Dao the Musashi arc, so hopefully they spend more time on it and give it some justice. Hanayama vs Pickle being set up throughout the series pretty much. I would still love to see this fight. Recently in Baki Rahan, we had Hanayama pull up and stop the fight between Jack and Pickle as it was on his turf, setting up most likely Jack vs Hanayama in the future, but also potentially Hanayama vs Pickle that I think a lot of us would love to see, and maybe a very close matchup currently in the story. Katsumi being weak, so I don't think this is the case, but I do think he definitely needs to perform more and actually do something. He's been built up an insane amount throughout the series, whether it be during the Maximum tournament where he was hyped by Doppo quite a bit, then getting destroyed by Retsu. Didn't really do much during the prisoner arc apart from being clowned on and beating up Doyo a little bit, who's arguably the weakest prisoner. He got built up an insane amount more again for his Pickle fight, which he did quite well in, but still got absolutely destroyed. Losing his arm, not doing anything for a little bit. Retsu died during the Musashi arc. he ended up getting Retsu's arm during the sumo arc, being the only one to lose against his sumo opponent, but to be fair, he was much stronger than him and didn't really want to kill his opponent, that's why he forfeited, that's what's explained in the story, and then got called out by Jack. But that's really all. He definitely needs to perform in his Jack fight or he's going to be clowned on, that's for sure. Next we have an interesting one, saying that Jack would have beat Spec during the prisoner arc. So I do believe this is the case, and I would even say Jack at the time of the start of the prisoner arc is the third strongest in the pretty much known main character universe. One being YUICHIRO, two being Oliver, and then third being Jack. After the maximum tournament, Baki had a little bit of a fall off until the point where he got that post nut amp, you could say, destroying Yanagi and Sikorsky, while Jack just got outright confirmed as stronger, got his height surgery, and definitely demonstrated his monstrous nature against Sikorsky. So if he was to fight Spec or any of the other prisoners during that arc, I would have bet on Jack. A little bit of a discussion about the Sukune vs Oliver rematch. I can agree with Sukune being at 70% due to his arm and still being injured from the Jack fight. Oliver, I would say, is pretty much 100%. We saw him being absolutely monstrous in that little training scene before pulling up on Sukune. We got no insight to him being nerfed in any way. And I would agree that regardless of pretty much Sukune being nerfed, how easy it was for Oliver was quite shocking, and even shocking for himself considering the way he knocked out Sukune. But is he above Jack? I can't really agree with that. I just think the circumstances and looking at the fight itself, Oliver could be viewed as performing better, but still looking at current Baki, which is Baki Rahen, I do think Jack is above Oliver. It was sus stuff, that's for sure, and yeah, I guess Baki was lucky but not lucky, who knows. Pickle has the greatest lifting strength in the verse, that is true with him lifting the various dinosaurs. Sukune's strongest hand grip, feet wise, considering if he was able to do this that would be the case, and YUICHIRO the strongest punch. Yeah, I agree with all this. For Retsu, yes, the longer it's been since his last appearance, the more outdated he's going to continue to be, and will eventually drop out of the top 10 if he hasn't already. But Isekai Retsu is definitely a monster and probably does beat Pickle, I'm not gonna lie. If you still haven't checked out this Baki side manga, highly recommend it. So the whole discussion about Hanayama getting stronger or not getting stronger is debatable. There's some issues with the translations during the Musashi arc when it comes to stating that he did train, or YUICHIRO stating that Hanayama does train in secret. But one thing that is outright confirmed is that he's similar to YUICHIRO in the way that he's a built different character, meaning it's possible that he just naturally gets stronger by existing, not needing to train. And if he has better feats deeper in the story, that is pretty much the evidence of that. So him getting stronger is probably going to happen, and I hope he demonstrates this during the Jack arc. Oliver vs Hanayama could really go either way currently. I would also place my bets more so on Oliver, but I did a big video breaking down this matchup with everything we currently know. If we were to get a part 2 of the Kengan vs Baki crossover film, which is a possibility as broken down in this video, Julius vs Oliver will go absolutely hard. Itagaki knows what Baki is about. There you go boys, we could have the biggest hot take of today's video and he might be right. Oliver is the richest fighter in Baki if you don't believe YUICHIRO owns the world. You could make an argument that it is the case. You could also make a pretty interesting argument about Kaku and his influence in China and potentially the world as well. There are a few other characters that come to mind, but Oliver is definitely up there. Gaia and Sikorsky 10 out of 10 romance. Again, if you guys don't know, there's a side manga that features a comedy or slice of life focused series between these two characters, which is crazy, but yes, it's real. Jack's gonna meet this Pickle. Based on the initial performance before they head to the underground arena, this could very well be the case and Jack is looking good. I think it's pretty common and agreeable to say that the prisoner arc is amongst the best when it comes to Baki and easily top 5 for most people. Kozue's father is close to Doppo Orochi in strength, so I don't particularly agree with this, but if you guys don't know, Kozue's father actually appears in this side manga, who, spoilers, has a clash with Yanagi that may or may not result in his death. We don't know the exact circumstances of this fight, but with that said, it's likely the case that current Doppo Orochi is quite a bit stronger than Kozue's father was. Tokigawa being annoying is kinda the case at some point throughout Baki, but as a reminder, he's pretty much the ultimate goon, the ultimate instigator throughout the Baki world, giving us pretty much these random pog reactions at various points, enjoying the fights as much as we are. But yes, I could see how people find him annoying at times, but still, he's goated in many other ways. Yuichiro Hanma will never return and never be mentioned again. This is my own hot take, and unfortunately, I think this might be the case. The last, first, and only time he appeared in the main series was of course during Baki vs YUICHIRO, which we all got to see animated last year. However, this reveal occurred in 2012 of the manga's release schedule, 12 years ago now. Since then, we have had 2 more completed Baki series, and now a 3rd ongoing manga known as Baki Rahen. Throughout all these hundreds of chapters, we have not got a single mention of Yuichiro Hanma. And realistically speaking, Baki as a series cannot last forever, so perhaps his mysterious nature will remain forever. Of course, I hope I'm wrong and we do get that Hanma flashback arc, or at least a single mention, and best case scenario, a side manga dedicated to Yuichiro, not just little appearances like we've gotten in the past in Doppo's side manga and that one panel in the new Shiba manga. And speaking about this monster, we got takes about some things to consider when trying to work out how strong he is. First is the infamous getting his jaw broken by young Doppo's kick. Some believe, based on Yuichiro's fairly chill and smug demeanor, that he was just joking about the kick doing damage, while even holding his hand to the jaw after the kick. Many also use this claim when Doppo jumped up to prove this point, that he's glad that someone out there knows how strong he truly is, alongside him repeating that line in the final panel of the chapter as he reads what Doppo did in the paper, revealing his jaw that seems to be fine. So yes, I think it's likely Yuichiro was just messing around in this moment, but this is not absolute, so the slander can of course continue. His second point was about Yuichiro surviving these various bombings on the island and receiving, as we can see, no damage, even to his clothing, pretty much implying he may have avoided all of them with perhaps guerrilla tactics or something similar. But considering the sheer amount of ammunition used and the size of the island, it's still hard to disagree that this is an insane feat for Yuichiro. And then we have his ghost-like appearance in the series. Yes, I agree that this doesn't really add any information for finding out how strong he is, for more so shocking the others rather than putting fear into them due to how strong he is. However, even for Baki standards, this was a very wild moment that never had the characters mentioned again. I also agree that him having a demon back does help his arguments for him being perceived as stronger, alongside the respect Yujiro clearly has for him to a degree, at least for that one technique. So Yuichiro Hanma being strong is most likely the case. Musashi Miyamoto can still low diff current Baki Rahen Jack. So this take is probably going to be around until we actually get Jack's fight against Baki or Yujiro, the only two comparable to the legendary samurai. And the question is, do people really think Baki is just going to low diff Jack in their rematch? Additionally, we have some ways to argue for Jack during the Musashi arc as well. This is of course using our boy Motobe, who as we know was capable of defeating Musashi. Yes, it's claimed that he could have been killed at many points, and as a whole does not think he's really a match for full power Musashi, but still he has the means to fight him as clearly displayed. Jack faced that same Motobe during that arc, and had the Prep Time King freaking out about how crazy Jack is, once again his resolve, with the stun grenade not stopping the onslaught of blows, needing to bind the Hanma to stop the fight, and facing him to stop the wild beast from being killed by Musashi, which begs the question of what would have happened if they faced one another. I think he probably would have been killed, but I wouldn't even consider that fight a low diff, even more so now. Which also begs the question of if we're ever going to see Musashi return to the series, as it's claimed within the end of his arc that it's a possibility. However, I've gone over this before, I believe this was just placed in to appease the fandom who were probably pissed off at the time when Musashi was taken out in such an unfortunate way, in combination with what happened between YUICHIRO and Musashi earlier in the arc. Multiple disappointments, then just outright removing him without an all-out fight or a defeat per se was a little unfortunate, so I don't think he's ever going to return. However, on that note, he has already been mentioned twice in the new Baki manga, 15 chapters in, 2 Musashi Miyamoto mentions, which is pretty cool. I hope he does return, but honestly don't see it happening. And with that, welcome to today's Baki hot takes video. The takes are from the Discord, free to join, link in the description. Let's get into all the others. Hanayama 100% hits harder than Jack. I agree with this. Hanayama is pretty much a brute strength fighter. He's known for his almighty build up punch that is super slow but seems to hit pretty much every fighter when it's used, which is kind of crazy. I'm imagining it has some low-key hacks that just stuns his opponent with the glory of it. Hanayama was able to make YUICHIRO bleed back in the Musashi arc, so yes, Hanayama, when it comes to pure striking ability, is up there, one of the strongest. Kaku over all the muscle-based fighters, so I disagree with this. YUICHIRO during his fight against Kaku was able to overpower his abilities with raw strength alongside this little trick, which honestly isn't that technical and a lot of characters could realistically do that. With the guys mentioned here having enough strength to honestly just crush Kaku at this point. And I would also argue that all of them are physically stronger than the YUICHIRO who faced Kaku, as every character progressively gets stronger throughout the series, particularly YUICHIRO. My man is spitting facts, Hanayama will forever be goated. Another hot take from me, Pickle being pickled, which is just outright confirmed in the series. That's how he got the name Pickle. Hanayama has Jack beat on grip, I agree. They are roughly equal in durability, yeah, I can agree with that. And then Jack has him in speed and technique, yes, also agree, it's a mid-diff win for Jack. Probably the case, so yeah, agreeable all around. Jack and Pickle's bite-off will be legendary and will go down as the best and most brutal fight in Baki history. Probably the case in the rematch, the initial biting clash is still one of the greatest moments in all of Baki, and still probably to this day my favourite fight in all of Baki. The rematch will go absolutely insane, Jack has much more to prove, Pickle has his new build, cannot wait. Doyle isn't weak, Retsu with weapons is just him. This guy may be onto something, considering Doyle actually performed decently well against Oliver, landing a few attacks alongside actually tanking a slam from Oliver that had people think an earthquake was occurring, so Doyle kinda crazy. I've done a whole breakdown of how strong the prisoners are in this video here. YUICHIRO can time travel, well Baki claims YUICHIRO is above time, so perhaps he can. Retsu during the Musashi arc, top 10 or even top 5. Potentially the case, especially with weapons, alongside the Xiao Li abilities he gained from Kaku. Retsu was kinda busted and it's just unfortunate he got taken out before really getting a chance to challenge other fighters with these new abilities. However, quite some time has passed, the other characters are beginning to get insanely strong, which to me means Retsu is no longer in the top 10 strongest of all time. Demonback Baki loses to base form YUICHIRO. Low-key might be true, and it's sad that it is. The longer the arc runs, the worse the main antagonist keeps getting of that arc, except Musashi. Yes, agreed, just look at all the prisoners, started out as monstrous, then slowly got defeated. We had Ali Jr., who I guess was the antagonist during that time, came in, destroyed Doppo, destroyed Goki, and then unfortunately faced Jack and then lost over and over and over. Sukune started out strong, defeating Oliver, then this loss. Once again highlighting how monstrous Musashi was. And I also think Jack is going to have the same type of showings, especially when you consider they face the same person to begin their arcs or their mangas. Current Doppo over the young YUICHIRO 16 years old, yes, definitely agree. The current Doppo Orochi is by far the strongest version of him we've ever had in the series. And of course, a weaker version of Doppo was able to push a stronger version than what he's talking about in the hot take here, so yes, without a doubt. I do think Goki and Katsumi are monstrous, and as he said, they do have a chance of beating Hanayama. Katsumi did beat Hanayama during the maximum tournament, and even now probably has more narrative with him considering he has Retsu's arm, and Goki is always the ultimate troll, can do some wild stuff. Just look at how he manhandled Oliver during the prisoner arc as well. Korin Katsumi would slam Kakukaro without the use of the hitless blow. Yeah, I agree with this. Katsumi is absolutely monstrous now, and Kaku is extremely outdated. Not weak per se and would give up a great match, but Katsumi is just that guy now, he doesn't really stand a chance. Yujiro being the strongest forever has got to be the shittest thing I've heard of. I guess that's one of the most unique things about Baki. The main antagonist was really never defeated and remained as the strongest for the whole history of the story. The series will end with Yujiro being defeated, potentially, but also potentially not, considering what the author has said about him in various interviews, so I wouldn't be surprised if Yujiro just never loses. And speaking of that, yeah, it may be the case. And now we have the final hot take in today's video. Doppo beats Goki and Oliver. So Doppo faced and lost against Goki during the maximum tournament. However, since then I would imagine Doppo's gotten stronger to a higher degree. However, Goki's still that guy. I would imagine these two are still extremely relative. Doppo being able to beat Oliver I wouldn't really agree with, but I think it is possible. They are close enough in abilities and power that would be an extremely close fight. I would actually love to see something like that in the future of the story. Young Yujiro stronger than the likes of YUICHIRO. Of course, for most things regarding YUICHIRO we can't really say, but this does bring up an interesting question about how strong young Yujiro actually was. Not just the one we got to see during the Vietnam War, dominating throughout that and getting his name known throughout the world as the weaponist weapon of the East. What about before that? Yujiro Hanma, for example, from the age of 13 to 16, as I believe it stated he was 16 during that time in the Vietnam War. What was he like compared to Baki around that age group? Something I would actually love to see in the future of the story. I'm surprised we haven't actually got an in-depth flashback about Yujiro's life, considering how popular he is as a character and how much Itagaki actually, likes Yujiro. We have seen him at his youngest age, of course, when he was born, but the life before the Vietnam War we don't really know anything about, namely his interactions with YUICHIRO and even his mother. We have no idea really about that, just that Yujiro as a person is the complete opposite to his father, and that the first thing you should know about him according to his mother is that he is an extremely dark man. How was this actually determined? We honestly have no idea. The Retsu Isekai will end by him coming back to life, probably in the next Musashi arc. So of course, this would be quite insane. I don't think this will actually happen. I think Retsu is never returning to the main story, mainly considering his pretty much legacy within the story itself is now passed on with the likes of Katsumi. But considering the amount of crazy stuff Retsu has been doing in his manga, if he was to return to the main series, he would probably be the strongest character, or at the very least on the same level of Yujiro considering the insanity he's currently doing. Highly recommend checking it out. Pickle is still top 5. I think this is probably the case, considering all the character returns recently in Baki Rahen, and of course his new design buffer than ever before. If more so fodder characters are getting to the level of like Doppo, Orochi, Hanayama, etc., a monster like Pickle is still probably around the top of the verse, top 5 definitely. And continuing with the Pickle stuff, Sukune being stronger than him I don't particularly think is the case. Yes, he has the ability to win with his insane grip strength. However, considering the narrative of the story, I don't think he'll be regarded as stronger than Pickle once we get to see what current Pickle is capable of. Yanagi is the only character that can kill Pickle while being barehanded. Out of all the characters in the entire Bakiverse, Yanagi has one of the most hacked abilities in the entire series, whether it be having the ability to make people fall unconscious with a single move or the poison he has. He also has this crazy statement from the likes of Motobe, which I'll be breaking down and talking about in more detail in a future video. Rivera should come back, yes I agree, and could actually be the case considering the recent return of all these older characters. Yes, he isn't as old as the likes of Hanada, someone from early Grappler Baki. Gravera was in the Son of Ogre manga 3 mangas ago now. It's been quite some time, and even within that short amount of time we got to see him, he became a fairly popular character and also was demonstrated to be fairly strong as well. So him having an interaction, for example, with the likes of Doppo Orochi and them two fighting, I think would be pretty cool. Angel back Jack will happen. So this is a theory that's been spread throughout the community since the reveal in chapter 2 of Baki Rahen that Jack is a Christian, which was kinda hinted at various other points in the story, but we got to see the youngest version of Jack that we've seen so far, and of course his connection with religion there. Since then, people have been saying Jack will unleash his angel back due to him being a Christian, and that's about it. Of course, it could happen, it's Baki we're talking about, but I think it would be quite wacky. Yes, we have the implication from YUICHIRO that the reason Jack doesn't have the demon back is he's not pure enough as a Hanma. This is perhaps due to his mother not being also selected by YUICHIRO, or of course his drug use. Regardless, I do think Jack will unleash the demon back in the future of the story, and I'm not buying into the whole angel back theory, but if it does happen, I guess that's cool. A Jack vs Ali Jr. rematch would be kinda cool. So of course I would much prefer Jack to fight a variety of other characters, but Ali Jr. actually returning to the story I think would be pretty cool, considering the way he actually left it, very unfortunate and kinda sour. Him having a grand return and actually being much stronger than ever before, in combination with having a little bit of a personality change or development, that would be pretty badass. Unless of course he actually stole Kozue away from Baki, and that's why she hasn't made an appearance since the father-son fight. If that is the case, this will leave him out of the story. Motobe is top 3 without dead characters. With prep time, with the right circumstances, I guess so. Without all of that, I don't think so, and was kinda claimed by him in his first fight against Jack, how when it comes to physique or regular abilities, Jack is superior to him. And I think this will be more so demonstrated once again once they have their fight in Baki Rahen. In the anime, Retsu's boxing arc over the Pickle arc. So I still prefer the Pickle arc, whether it be the anime or the manga, but I would have to say I actually enjoyed the Retsu boxing arc more in the anime compared to the manga. My first time reading the manga, I knew the father-son fight was coming up. It was hinted at, teased throughout that entire arc, and I felt like I wasn't really able to enjoy it as much considering I knew what was coming next and was trying to read as fast as possible to really rush through it and get to that greatness. When watching the recent anime season, I was able to slowly enjoy it, and it was actually quite good. Of course, I would want to see the full conclusion of that entire arc, which was kinda shown at the end of the final episode of the recent anime season, but a full deep dive into everything that occurred would be pretty cool to actually see fully revealed. Katsumi top 5 without dead characters. Currently, I don't think that is the case. In the future, it's a possibility, but I'm gonna imagine he's gonna be regarded as the same tier as people like Oliver and Hanayama, with those characters fighting for most likely 5th position in the top 5 strongest, so we'll have to wait and see. Baki the Grappler is where Baki as a series peaked in terms of writing. I agree, Baki's flashback arc is probably the best writing within the whole story, especially emotion wise regarding Baki and his mother. Then even the other stuff throughout, YUICHIRO vs Doppo Orochi and the entire Maximum Tournament, writing wise Grappler Baki is the best, but it's not the most hype or badass. I definitely prefer Son of Ogre as my favourite part in the entire Baki series, but I would have to say the writing in Grappler Baki is the best. Jack would win against Masashi. Based on what he was shown so far, I don't particularly think so, but considering where the current arc in the story is going, and the fact that every character just gets stronger as the story progresses, Masashi isn't really alive right now, he can't get stronger, I think Jack will end up surpassing him in the future of the story. Hanayama over the likes of Jack. Considering what Hanada just did to Hanayama, I'm gonna say no. Jack over the likes of YUICHIRO, of course we can't say, but I agree. Hanayama vs Pickle would be a harder fight due to both of their performances against Masashi. Yes, I agree, there's actually various comparisons to be made between these two fights, whether it be the grip strength of Masashi vs Pickle, or Hanayama vs Masashi with Pickle struggling and Hanayama being able to overpower him. The durability differences, there's some aspects where Hanayama is shown in a favourable light and others where Pickle is definitely superior. So if they were to have an all-out clash, I think it would definitely be a high diff, but I would regard Pickle as the stronger of the two still. Motobe will fold Jack again. I don't think that's going to happen, but I am enjoying Motobe in this higher position, especially regarding the other characters Jack has called out, and him being the one explaining a lot of stuff of recent. Jack vs Motobe was a mad underrated fight in the Masashi arc. Definitely agree, and I would say I prefer Jack vs Motobe over Masashi vs Motobe if I'm being honest. Probably even a top 3 fight in that whole arc. The demon brain is never going to be explained because there's nothing to be explained. Itagaki just thought it looked cool, and he was right. Sadly, this is most likely the case. He's like, what else can I add into the story to build up Baki before his fight against his father? Let's just make his brain a demon and then never mention it again. This is probably the case. Garland deserves better. Definitely agree, he's one of the characters who had the most impact on the Maximum Tournament and had a very good fight against Jack. Then after that he got low diffed, off-screened by the likes of Sikorsky and hasn't made a relevant appearance since. Considering how older characters are shining recently in Baki Rahen, Garland making a grand return would be pretty cool, especially considering he has beef with Jack, and Jack kinda got revenge for him as well by taking out Sikorsky to a degree, which is pretty cool. Also take note, in the Gaia and Sikorsky spin-off manga, Garland also appeared in that, with Jack also making a little appearance in a very badass scene. Motobe is gonna die to Jack in the rematch. I think someone is going to be killed by Jack throughout this arc to build up Jack as the main antagonist, but will it be Motobe? Possibly, considering how many characters actually respect him now. Baki is only more popular than Kengan right now because of the weird shit and normal animation. I think Baki has been expanded to new levels due to like TikTok and various trends regarding it, stuff Kengan doesn't really have. I think Jack is going to achieve a mutation state due to the intense drug he's taking, surgery, etc. He kinda entered a mutation alien-like state during his fight against Baki at the end of the Maximum Tournament, where he surpassed the limits when it comes to his drug use. Having this return and actually result in his death would be a way to actually end Jack in the story, but I'll definitely prefer something like a demon back or even the angel back coming out rather than this type of thing again. And pretty much the same thing, Jack dying after getting the demon back. Him unleashing it and actually scaring YUICHIRO will be the way to actually end Jack's time in the story perfectly. Baki Rahen is going to end up being peak Baki. So far, 5 chapters in, I think it's very possible. Current Oliver solos Hanayama and everything but grip strength. I think this is honestly fair to say, but I am working on a full breakdown between these two in a fight. Motobe stronger than Hanayama. Controversial, maybe, let me know down below for this one. Maximum Tournament 2 is happening, the perfect way to end the story in my opinion. The Maximum Tournament is better than the Rutai Tournament. I wouldn't really expect this to be a hot take. Yes, YUICHIRO vs Kaki was cool, but the Maximum Tournament had way better fights and more of them. Masashi remains undefeated, I guess, kinda, not really. Goki is the best character in Baki. I think he's actually quite cool and I do enjoy pretty much every moment from him as the ultimate troll throughout the series. And I am excited for his rematch against Jack as well, so Goki fans, rise up. Should Che Guevara return? I personally enjoyed him, definitely one of the highlights of the Oliver prison arc. He may have done fairly well in the Suma arc due to the skill this guy talked about, but I did enjoy some of his other moves, such as using his own hair to pretty much one-shot anyone. That was probably my personal favourite move of Guevara. If he was to return, I think it would be pretty cool, and to get an understanding of where he compares to the various other characters, as he was kind of rolled by Oliver at Oliver's peak in the story. So maybe if the prisoners were to return at some point, Guevara returning in that same arc could be something pretty interesting that I'll be quite hyped for. Yeah, I pretty much agree with this. Gaia is one of the characters throughout Baki who's been done the dirtiest. In his initial introduction in early Baki when he faced 13-year-old Baki, he had all this hype going into him, potentially someone on Yujiro's tier. After 13-year-old Baki defeated him, it just went downhill from there. He got negged off screen by Yujiro. Yes, he got a little bit of redemption in the prisoner arc against Sikorsky, but again, it's Sikorsky and it wasn't really that long. And then hasn't really done anything since then. He appeared in the Pickle arc to this Sea Pickle and got clapped by Motobe and Musashi during that arc. And now is pretty much just the student of Motobe asking him various questions. So yeah, guy's kind of gone on a downward spiral throughout the story, but seeing him fight the prisoners, again, that will be very hype. I agree with this one as well. I think Sukune vs Jack is one of the best fights we've had in, honestly, years, because remember, Baki Dao 2018 started in 2018, that's 4 years ago, and I think it's better than a lot of the fights in the Musashi arc as well, so very hyped to see the outcome, of course, hoping it is for Jack's victory, praying for my boy. But the Sumo tournament arc, I'm not too much of a fan of. I just don't find any of the other sumo wrestlers memorable at all. I can't even remember like any of their names. I've read that arc twice now, so yeah. Not the biggest fan of that one. Goki, yes, underrated in terms of strength. Is this due to his Aki or Kido, whatever it is. Goki is pretty much a beast. Even in the recent chapters, we're still getting implications that he's still above the likes of Dopporochi, so still an absolute beast. One of the few characters to kinda troll Musashi during his arc, and as a whole, is always a trolling character that doesn't get too much shine throughout the story, but when he does, he normally goes in and does the clapping. I would say Hanayama himself was a badass during the fight, but the fight as a whole wasn't really all that, especially reading it like monthly, whenever the timeline of the Baki release schedule during that fight was kind of horrendous. It was like a monthly chapter or something crazy like that, with Hanayama only throwing one punch a chapter. So that was my personal like downside. Rereading the whole arc again does make it better, of course, but I don't really consider a fight, just Hanayama being badass scene, I guess. So, prior to the most recent chapter, 119, I didn't really care for Sukune whatsoever, didn't really like him during this arc, but seeing his determination and what he's willing to do to win against Jack did give me a lot more respect for him, and I wouldn't mind if he was just a character to return in future arcs like a Goki or Dopporochi, maybe it is like a evil character or a new antagonistic type character. He is returns for like some fight or maybe like fights between other characters, stuff like that. Just him being more so their main focus hasn't really been the most enjoyable experience for me. This guy is just spitting facts, not really a hot take, just how the story is actually progressing. A lot of people don't really understand this for Baki for some reason, but we see characters training throughout the series. Wouldn't that mean characters are progressively getting stronger? Like, Yujiro from early Baki isn't the same Yujiro that he is now. It's just characters are progressing at a different rate. Like, Baki progressed the fastest in the verse pretty much, while characters like Oliver started out around the top but haven't been progressing as much as the other top tiers. As such, he's lagging behind a little bit. So you can pretty much say every character that's relevant in Baki is much stronger than the initial introduction, including Dopporochi. His current form or his current self is the strongest we've ever seen him in this series. I'll go into more detail about that in my How Strong is Dopporochi video, so stay tuned for that. This issue I think more so relates to the anime. Of course, reading manga is much easier and faster, and if you really wanted to, you could kind of skip past a lot of the explanation and dragging out scenes, but when watching the anime, it really does, you know, over the top and waste a lot of time because they need to read it all out. They sometimes go into more detail. That is one of the biggest downsides for the anime for me personally, but in the manga, it doesn't really bother me unless it's like a whole dedicated chapter to explaining something that's not really that relevant. But yeah, cutting them out does make a lot of the fights very hype and better, but I don't really mind it for the manga. I think this is fair enough to say. I'm hoping that after, you know, he got absolutely destroyed by Sukune, he does change quite a bit and make maybe his own fighting style to more so counter others rather than being a little bit of like a troll and just relying on, oh yeah, big muscle, can't get hurt, and then gets absolutely negged. Yes, this is a pretty common theory in the fandom at this point due to the statement to Muhammad Ali that YUICHIRO has spread his seed throughout the whole world. I think I can speak for most people in the fandom that this arc would most likely be legendary, and I don't think many people would be disappointed if we actually got this. Musashi is on YUICHIRO's level. Could be the case. He's still getting respect in the Sukune arc. After YUICHIRO, clowned on Sukune, we had the old man mentioning Musashi, so that was pretty cool to see. But being fair, YUICHIRO did drop him during their fight. Musashi may have dropped YUICHIRO if Motobe didn't step in, and also Musashi went the most serious he did in his arc against YUICHIRO, using his swordless style, like the ultimate form, whatever it was called, the only time against YUICHIRO. So yes, he's on his tier, but regardless, I think he is certified top 3 for the remainder of the story. Could be on YUICHIRO's level, but I don't really see a way to rank him above in any way. Another dude spitting absolute facts, it will be one of the hypest moments in all of Baki. The build up, everything will be absolutely legendary if this was to happen. And as I said in my previous video, it could very well happen in chapter 120. Itadaki, please provide the absolute goods. Maybe this isn't a hot take video, but a spitting fact takes. Yes, this is pretty much Dopporochi, something that a lot of people don't really understand yet, but yeah, hopefully I can fix that in a future video. Jack is on even ground with Pickle now. I would like to think so. Pickle, again, characters progressively get stronger throughout the series. We haven't seen Pickle since the Musashi arc, so his improvement isn't yet known. Jack has improved greatly. Yes, Jack got rolled by Pickle, which was quite a bit of arcs now. Jack had his improvements in the Musashi arc and he faced Motobe. That could have been on even ground with Pickle for all we know, and then his even further improvements now. I think it's safe to say they're on around the same tier, and of course we would love to see a rematch between those two. I'm not sure what to think about this one. Baki losing maybe against a new antagonist type character I guess could be cool, but Baki again lost to Pickle twice during that arc. Has actually never defeated Pickle in a fight. He kinda lost against Musashi in their first fight, and their second fight got cut short, so he has lost quite a bit of times these characters. That isn't YUICHIRO, so I'm not too sure what to think about this one. I think Baki's character is solidified at this point. I don't really think it's going to change too much. Modern Baki art style is 100 times better than any other art style shown. I think the current style is the cleanest we've ever had, but standalone hype panels, I think previous styles did better in that regard with the shading and just the, panels like this you see on screen. We haven't really had too much of that in the current art style, but again, I do enjoy it. Is it better than the previous styles? Perhaps, but I wouldn't say it's 100 times better. Musashi is stronger than Baki and would have killed YUICHIRO if Motobe didn't step in. Quite a bit of a hot take. No, I don't think he would have killed YUICHIRO. YUICHIRO is Itadaki's little princess of the story. If you're a Kengan fan, Ryan is the little princess of Sandovich. YUICHIRO is the little princess of Itagaki. So, no, I don't think that would be the case. Him being stronger than Baki may be the case during that arc, but again, Baki, YUICHIRO have gotten stronger in the current arc. I think they may be a little bit above Musashi, or at least on the same tier, but would win in a fight against him. But again, we don't really know, and I doubt we'll ever find out. YUICHIRO is still stronger than Baki. Don't really think that's a hot take. I think that's just common knowledge. I think YUICHIRO could beat the shit out of YUICHIRO. Doesn't really have anything supporting that. I explain a lot of this in my How Strong is YUICHIRO video. Maybe he's on his tier, maybe he's stronger, but it all breaks down to headcanon. We have no idea. There will be no Hanma arc, as in YUICHIRO's children coming to kill him. Most likely right, but I think all of us would like to see that. If you don't know, this stems from Yujiro's conversation with Muhammad Ali when he was younger, where he said he spread his seed all throughout the world, meaning he should have more children apart from Jack and Baki. The theory is that those children will actually appear one day, and then we'll have Yujiro facing all his children and eventually dying perhaps. Without holding back, Musashi is stronger than Baki. Most likely during the Musashi arc, Baki with his demon back out is of course very debatable, as he's able to fight Yujiro with his demon back out as well, with Musashi being able to fight demon back Yujiro as well. Current Baki should have gotten stronger since the Musashi arc, so it may not be the case, but during the arc I think it is most likely, or at least they're pretty much equal, interchangeable in my opinion. Baki is low diff by Jack in peak condition, most likely not. Baki is an awesome anime, not a hot take, just awesome. Amen, I respect that and it is quite awesome. Retsu is an asshole. He could have told the other Kaios that Dorian was in a car accident or literally any other excuse for his mental condition, but instead they sent a mentally disabled man in to get crushed by Kaio. My man has a point. I didn't really think about this, but yeah, Retsu do be a little bit of a menace for this. The Baki CJ was not bad, it was the best for anime of that time. Some scenes were absolutely terrible, like the Dorian stuff. Other aspects not so much, but the worst of the worst was, you know, absolute garbage. They literally had to take Musashi out of the story because he was just too OP. Potentially, of course, we all would have loved to see finished fights between him and Yujiro and him and Baki. He did have his fight with Yujiro, which I guess technically ended in a draw, so the ceiling for Musashi was kind of placed right there, making him pretty much Yujiro levels. So what could he really do? Just leave Musashi in the story and watch him massacre all the characters until it's like Yujiro and Baki left. So yeah, I guess he had to take him out, but just the way he did it wasn't as rewarding or as, you know, anyone really wanted. Baki Dao is well paced, it actually is. I actually agree with this. The whole pacing issue comes about with the chapter release schedule. Many people who read the manga actually caught up when Baki Dao was coming out. I did as well, and the release schedule not being consistent makes it seem like the pacing isn't too well. But if you go back and read it from start to current, the pacing is nothing really wrong with it, so yeah, I agree. YUICHIRO is on the moon chilling and just projected once he noticed his son and grandson fighting. Pretty interesting theory. Don't know what to say apart from that. Yujiro is a good father. Yes. True. Fact. YUICHIRO is not stronger than Yujiro. I agree with this. I talked about it in this video here if you want to check it out. They shouldn't have shafted Keiha instantly. Doppo didn't need another dub. He's already past his prime. Potentially Doppo didn't need another dub, but the current Doppo should be the strongest version of Doppo in the whole series. Pretty much explained in this video here. Current Jack still gets eclipsed by Pickle. I disagree. Jack is pretty much set up right now to fight current Baki. Baki, even back in the Pickle arc when he was using techniques, was pretty much stomping Pickle. He only really lost that fight because he chose to use raw strength only against Pickle, which he got stomped. And then in the next arc, we have Baki just punching Pickle and doing pretty significant damage with his raw power. Characters, as I've been saying, have been getting progressively stronger. Pickle as well most likely got stronger from his arc to the Musashi arc with that transformation. However, his degree of strength increase probably isn't as much as characters like Jack, Baki and Yujiro, so I do think current Jack does actually defeat Pickle, at least for what we know of Pickle, as he hasn't returned in the new manga yet. Baki has been mid since the father and son fight. Only good part for the last while was a majestic Jack dub. I enjoyed pretty much the whole Musashi arc, even though it did kind of seem like solely fan service. Every aspect of it was absolute hype. Seeing him interact with Yujiro and even their very short fight was one of the greatest readings in the whole Baki series, and just everything Musashi did was absolutely great, so I enjoyed every aspect of that arc. Rereading the whole Suma arc from start to finish is better than what I remember reading it weekly, and of course Jack greatness was absolutely peak. Before I continue, subscribe if you haven't already. I make fighting manga content on this channel, Mysterious Weeb. Join the Discord to be part of future hot take videos, and back to the video. Biscuit Oliver is more interesting as a character than 95% of the usual reoccurring cast, and him getting cucked by Sumo Guy is a huge disappointment. His cucking was a huge disappointment, I think everyone agrees on that. If he was set up to lose against Sukune, at least give him a good fight. Ever since his defeat from Baki, Oliver has just been taking like L's and L's. He lost low diff against Yujiro virtually off screen for the most part. He did nothing in the Musashi arc, and then he returns and gets pretty much low diff by Sukune. Is he an interesting character? I pretty much enjoy every aspect of him. Him during the Death Row Inmates arc was definitely a highlight of the whole thing, so yeah, Oliver has been kinda done dirty and he is quite interesting. Baki should have ended after the father-son fight. Potentially yes, as a definitive ending and a good ending, but as a Baki fan, of course I would want it to continue. They should make a spin-off about Pickle. Yes, I would love to read that. Pickle, even though it isn't as interesting as other characters, could actually provide a, I guess, entertaining spin-off manga. Definitely better than the Sikorsky and Gaia spin-off that recently got released. That is quite wacky, but still fun in its own regard as well, but I'll be down for a Pickle spin-off. Doppo should have died against Musashi, not Retsu. That way Doppo's son can take over his father's place as the karate guy. I guess a solid point. Retsu, however, was going through a downward spiral ever since his defeat from Pickle and losing his leg. He had his whole boxing arc, and then he was pretty much suicidal in the Musashi arc. So yes, Retsu kinda deserved his death in some regard. Doppo dying to push up Katsumi would be pretty cool and would, I guess, give Katsumi the highlight he deserves, as he gets built up fairly well at time to time, but then we don't really see him for a long time and he does nothing. I wish we got more on Katsumi, and Doppo dying could give us that. So yeah, I agree. Making Yujiro so straight that he is gay was in character and justified. I'm not sure what to say about this one, so let me know down below. Prepared Motobe could defeat Yujiro, or at least bring him down on his knees. I disagree. Motobe's reaction to angry Yujiro, even in the Musashi arc, had him pretty much like this. I don't think Motobe would even know what to do to prep for Yujiro, so yeah, maybe not. And even Motobe's prep for Musashi wasn't really about being stronger than Musashi or defeating him. The whole fight itself was not really a all-out to the death fight, especially from Musashi's perspective. And you could even say Motobe was prepped in early Baki when he faced Yujiro and got destroyed in that regard as well, so you could maybe say it has happened and he already failed. Dorian is the weakest death row prisoner. I disagree. I think it's Doyle or Sikorsky. Baki lost the father-son fight. I think most people agree with that. Pickle isn't actually that strong, and Baki could have easily beat him in their fight. I wouldn't say easily, but could have actually defeated him if he continued using techniques in my opinion, and later versions of Baki should be above Pickle as well. Ali Jr. is the only character whom Yujiro technically and accidentally lost to. Yes, if you remember, Yujiro was trying to pretty much bait in Ali Jr. and pretty much got absolutely flexed on and shit on. That was pretty funny. Side note, when Ali Jr. was actually cool. Pickle is not physically stronger than Yujiro. I agree. Yujiro pretty much reclaims the number one when it comes to physical strength in the next arc when he was fighting Baki, so yes, that should be the case. The Earthquake feat is not Yujiro's peak scaling. Yes. Inagi can solo Doyle. Yes. Sukune has an extremely good shot at Musashi. Think about it, Musashi would let him grab his bones. If Musashi was just to stand there and Sukune was to grab him, I agree with this. If Musashi wasn't to do that, I don't agree with this. So technically you're right in some regard, but I don't think many people actually think Sukune would defeat Musashi. Yuichiro isn't dead. Could be the case. I think most people believe Yuichiro is dead because he appeared in like that ghost-like form. We have no confirmation of whether he is actually dead, so it's a valid hot take or theory, I guess. Baki has some of the worst female characters in all of shonen. Yes. Oliver solos Jack high diff. So currently in the manga, I disagree with this. I do, however, think the fight would be close, but I believe Jack would be the victor. I could probably make a whole dedicated video regarding this, as these two did defeat Sukune in a similar difficulty. Of course, Sukune was much more injured in his Oliver fight rather than when he fought Jack. However, Baki absolutely manhandled the likes of Sukune, and Jack is set up to fight Baki and potentially narratively be on his level, so I would put Jack as the victor for this currently. After the Jack arc, they're probably going to bring in the prisoners, or maybe even clone back an Ancient Hanma or Yuichiro. Personally, I don't think the prisoners are ever going to return in the main manga. Of course, it would be cool. The time we got to see them at the end of a previous season, was actually adapting a spin-off manga, 5 chapters dedicated to the 5 prisoners, that hasn't continued since it got released and was only done for more so promotion of the anime, as that's when Netflix started adapting Baki. Clones I don't think we really need any more of in the Bakiverse. An ancient Hanma would be cool, but we kinda already got the ancient character in Pickle. YUICHIRO could very well be dead, but a flashback or even a whole side manga dedicated to him would be absolute fire. Sometimes I think that Pickle might be a Hanma in the first Hanma. Imagine Pickle unlocking Demon Back. This is a common theory amongst the fandom, but for what we've been told throughout the series, there's nothing really pointing to it or confirming it, apart from a few instances where Pickle reminded Baki of his father Yujiro. We did also get similar things for the likes of Musashi from Baki's perspective as well, so you can't really say too much about that. If it was revealed, I think it would be quite fire, and imagine how strong Pickle would be with a Demon Back insanity. Musashi coming back wouldn't be a good choice plot wise. I agree, he's had his whole arc. Yes, the ending and certain fights were cut short and pretty much disappointed the entire fandom, but there was a reason it was done like that, wanting to preserve the respect Musashi has in pretty much Japanese culture. You can't have, all the Baki characters just beating him up. So they pretty much made him a character on Yujiro and Baki's level, having inconclusive fights with both of them. Only Yujiro and Yuichiro would survive a nuke. The rest of the cast except maybe Pickle would die, including Baki, and Musashi could survive too maybe. If you don't know, there's a character profile statement pretty much confirming that Yujiro is above nukes, and we've got multiple of these statements throughout the series that he's above nukes. Of course, there's subtle little reasons for him being claimed above nukes, outside of course the character profile one which claims he's just above them. Yuichiro, a lot of people are misinformed saying that he did survive a nuke. He did survive multiple bombings and crazy amounts of ammunition thrown at him, but they never used a nuke on him in his flashback. Hanayama never having a grip off against Sukune is a crime. Absolutely agree. Sukune is introduced as a character who could potentially have the strongest grip strength in the entire Bakiverse. Why not put him against the other character who's been known for his insane grip strength since the early days of Baki, Hanayama? They were fighting on the same side in the sumo tournament. Hanayama destroyed his sumo opponent. We had Oliver fight Sukune twice. We had Baki fight Sukune twice. We should have given Hanayama that shine he deserves. And honestly, he may be able to actually beat Sukune but lose in the grip strength department. Jack unlocks Demon Back. That is exactly what all of us want to see. Kaku is above Jack, Sukune and Oliver. So I disagree. Kakukara is very outdated when it comes to current Baki standards. All the main cast of characters have gotten much stronger since that arc. Of course, we've only really seen him fight the likes of Yujiro. Yujiro at that point has been getting stronger and stronger like all the other characters. Kaku of course could have gotten stronger, but we haven't actually seen this portrayed in the manga. So I think all 3 of them would actually defeat Kaku in a fight, but they wouldn't be like low divs per se. His skill and experience would play a part, and he does have some of the most broken techniques in the whole series, but stat wise he isn't really there currently, so these 3 I think would defeat him. And now something on the opposite spectrum. Yuichiro isn't even top 7 in the verse based on feats and statements. Pretty much what I just talked about, but due to my own bias and kinda looking at what he did in that short time we've seen him, I would probably place him in the top 10 just for like narrative of who he is. Once again, another Hanma, but from what we've seen, feats and statement wise, he may not be there. Oliver should have a fight with Pickle in about 100 chapters. That would be cool. Baki pretty much imagined this fight when he was fighting Pickle during his arc. Pickle recently returned in the manga. Oliver got his redemption on Sukune, so these 2 fighting would be absolute fire. Retsu's isekai is more entertaining than recent Baki. Outside of all the Jack stuff, when you look at Sukune's story and just sumo stuff, I would kinda agree. If you haven't checked out the Retsu isekai so far, it's still ongoing and quite unique and honestly fire. If you're a Retsu fan, you'll definitely enjoy it, but the Jack arc is coming, that'll be much better. Jack vs Sukune, top 5 fights in the entire series. Potentially, the hype that actually went into that fight was one of the best experiences as I guess someone part of the fandom and actually talking about the chapters week to week, or more so release to release. It was kind of my first time pretty much making videos when a major fight was about to occur in the Baki series. The hype from the Jack fans, which includes me, was next level, and the moment where he actually won and got his redemption was quite peak. So as a fan, it's probably top 5 moments, but as a fight itself, I probably wouldn't put it in the top 5, but it was quite fire. Kaku has no business being in anyone's top 5 anymore, even top 10. You could maybe make your argument for top 10, but definitely not top 5, not even close. Motobe with prep is top 5. During the Masashi arc, yes, but I have a feeling once we get Jack's rematch against him, we're gonna have a different perspective of Motobe, and he does have a tendency to kinda come out of nowhere and be relevant for a little bit, then completely disappear. And I get the feeling Motobe may be going down even if we consider his prep time. Gaia is a Shiba victim. Most definitely, Gaia fought a 13-year-old Baki and lost, and Shiba fought Baki right before his Yujiro fight. Didn't have any chance of winning, but did decently well to some degree. Of course, Gaia's gotten much stronger since then, but from what we've seen in the series, Shiba should be the victor in this fight. Baki versus Jack could end up being a better fight than Baki versus Yujiro. I would want it to be a better fight. We've already had Baki versus Jack at the end of the Maximum Tournament, and to this day, it's definitely one of the greatest fights in the whole Baki series. But the build-up, scale, and length of the Baki versus Yujiro fight, I don't think anything will really top that in the future of the Baki story, unless of course we get a Jack vs Yujiro crazy fight as well. In this next arc, Jack will surpass Masashi. If we actually got confirmation in the series that this is the case, that would be quite unexpected. Of course, scaling wise it would make sense, so can't wait for it to happen. Hanayama above the likes of Jack, Oliver, and Pickle. Quite a spicy take, probably the hottest take in today's video so far. I don't really think he'll be able to defeat current Jack, but him being stronger than Oliver, I would kinda give it to him. Once again, a same tier of character, and stronger than the likes of Pickle. In the Masashi arc, I would say it's possible, but currently we can't really say. Pickle will be looking absolutely next level. The Masashi arc had the best paneling as well as the best art in the series. Definitely one of the best. I'm currently in the middle of rereading it and can confirm it's absolutely peak. And now a big one for our boy Dev. Sukune was a wasted character with a lot of potential. It's a shame the Suma arc was so bad. Potential, yes. If he does play a part in the future of the story, maybe like returning after 200 or so chapters, that would be something, but from what we've seen, he is quite disappointing. Katsumi needs way more respect. He should be more than just a background character right now. Definitely agree. He literally has another main character's arm and is pretty much representing both Retsu and himself in the story, and even Dopper in a way, so Katsumi definitely needs more shine. If Baki had a rematch with Masashi, Baki would still win. I personally disagree, but it would be a high tier fight. Retsu's death was really unnecessary. If he were still alive, he'd likely be taking down fighters like Sukune. Personally, I don't think he's stronger than the likes of Sukune, and I don't think his death was 100% unnecessary. Ever since his fight against Pickle, Retsu was kinda on a downward spiral. Even going into that fight, it was kinda weird. Jack would have won against Motobe if he went serious from the start. He took too much damage while not going all out. Jack kinda was going for the win ever since the start. It's more so the prep time Motobe put into that fight countered everything Jack was going to do. Yes, he took damage in the early parts while not potentially going absolutely 100%. But he was definitely serious and honestly just got outplayed. Current Jack and the majority of top tiers would know this grappler Baki Yujiro. The only reason he seemed so strong was because the other characters were so weak. Pretty much agree. Once again, this character's getting stronger as the series has progressed. This includes Yujiro, just because one of the most insane feats of him stopping the earthquake happened in the flashback of grappler Baki. Doesn't mean Yujiro currently is weaker than that. Every character has gotten stronger. Yujiro literally has statements that he just gets naturally stronger every day. YUICHIRO is overrated, agree. Katsumi is probably Jack level. I think their fight in the Jack arc is going to be a high tier fight. It will definitely be closer to Jack's level than most people really expect. Current Dopper and Goki beat Kaku, potentially agree. Baki has no enemies, I guess so. Full power Baki Masashi is probably not as close as people think. Baki wins. I do think it would be high diff, but Baki winning I agree with. And now the final hot take in today's video. Jack dies at the end of his arc, coming to the amount of steroid abuse his body has taken. This would be sad, but honestly kinda perfect. Imagine in an all-out fight against Yujiro Hanma, he puts fear into Yujiro in the final moments, getting so close to actually defeating him in some way, and then pretty much his heart is stopped due to all the abuse he's done to his body. We see him drop, we see everyone absolutely stunned, including the likes of YUICHIRO. Imagine that's the way Jack actually goes out. Honestly, it would be peak beyond belief. So, what are you doing? War Thunder is free to play as Baki has a wealth of good opponents to develop his strength and doesn't feel the need to hold back, while YUICHIRO always fought people weaker than him or held back his strength. So the idea of Baki being stronger than YUICHIRO, I can get behind. The reasoning isn't really there, if I'm being honest. YUICHIRO could just be built different, and it kinda seems that way based on his introduction. Regardless of him not fighting people on his level for I guess his whole life, wouldn't really mean he isn't an absolute powerhouse. With his introduction alone, he was able to pretty much fear hacks Pickle, leave Baki stunned and pissed off YUICHIRO. One of the most impressive feats in I guess the whole Baki series, just in his ghost form alone. Whether Baki is stronger than YUICHIRO can't really be 100% determined, as we don't really know YUICHIRO's full capabilities. Of course, we know he potentially got his jaw broken by a young Doppo. This isn't Prime Doppo as I talk about in this video here. With current Baki being miles and miles stronger than that version of Doppo, so if he's able to damage YUICHIRO, Baki should be more than capable of it. Based on feats, of course, we should give it to Baki, even though YUICHIRO has defeated the USA and Baki hasn't really done something like that in a war like YUICHIRO and YUICHIRO have. But if I had to bet, I would say Baki is stronger than YUICHIRO based on what we've seen and pretty much overall series scaling. But the implications and overall hype we got for YUICHIRO, I wouldn't completely confirm it, and for all we know, YUICHIRO could be the strongest of all time, stronger than YUICHIRO. I personally just don't think so. YUICHIRO already knows about Jack's style and secretly kept tabs on him when Jack disappeared, just to one-up Jack if he attempts to challenge him. That would be pretty funny, and I guess YUICHIRO really just be knowing everything. Imagine if Jack actually begins to fight YUICHIRO and YUICHIRO pulls out the way of the biting style. That wouldn't really be in YUICHIRO's character and it would be super goofy, but if that happens, YUICHIRO is I guess the ultimate build different character, but we'll have to wait and see. He definitely knows about Jack's style now, I'm probably seeing it once he will fully understand it. I think Jack may defeat YUICHIRO instead of Baki, and it will be some sort of ending that way. So I want to agree with this. I want to think Jack will defeat YUICHIRO and that would be the end of the series. I wouldn't complain about that whatsoever, that would be absolute hype. But the likelihood of that actually occurring isn't really high. I think at most YUICHIRO fights Jack and gives him some praise and the respect he deserves. I don't think Jack would win that fight, or Itagaki would actually write the story in Jack winning. If anything, I think it will be a draw, or at the very least, YUICHIRO praising Jack at his current power. I guess today is all about our boy Jack. I think YUICHIRO kills Jack. That is also the possibility. Baki gets stronger, Baki beats YUICHIRO. That would be, I guess, a good ending to the series if Baki was to actually kill YUICHIRO, not just beat him. That would be some insanity. YUICHIRO and Jack have a crazy close fight. Jack ends up dying, Baki gets some insane rage, fights YUICHIRO and ends up killing him, and that is I guess the end of the story and the end of YUICHIRO. Doppo should have gotten Retsu's hair. Thumbs up. Hey. That would have been pretty interesting. Imagine all the characters just getting various pieces of Retsu's body to carry around after he dies. That would be some pretty wild stuff. Maybe he could have taken one of Retsu's eyes as well. Jack Hanma inspired the Liver King to start taking steroids. I guess that means I have to give some respect to the Liver King. Sumo arc was good. Good. I don't know if I agree. Good parts at times, but as a whole there were a few disappointing aspects. The whole Jack stuff, if you consider that part of the Sumo arc, that was pretty much peak Baki. YUICHIRO's fight with Sukune was I guess pretty cool. A lot of these sumo tournament fights I didn't really care about too much. It wasn't bad definitely, but was it good? I guess it was. At the moment, Jack's stronger than Pickle. I pretty much agree. Based on Pickle's showing so far in the series ever since the Musashi arc, the last time he appeared, current Jack should be stronger than that Pickle, considering Jack's meant to be able to fight Baki now. So yeah, Pickle should be kinda weaker unless he has some insane improvement we don't currently know about. But based on what we've seen and what's currently going on in the story, Jack should be above Pickle. Katsumi and Kaku deserve more screen time. I heavily agree about Katsumi. He is kinda weird how he's being written throughout the series. He has moments where he pretty much becomes the main character. We have pretty much Retsu losing his leg and then building up Katsumi for his fight with Pickle. We have his whole flashback, learn the truth about him and everything like that. And then he has this crazy fight getting all the support with Pickle. Then of course he lost his arm, disappears forever. And then Retsu ended up dying in the Musashi arc. We see Katsumi actually getting Retsu's arm and then kinda getting that protagonist-like treatment again. And then instead of sticking with Katsumi, we go to some other things and then we don't see him for a while again. Katsumi currently has Retsu's arm, he's uniting karate and Chinese Kempo. More shine definitely needs to be given to him, and I guess maybe if he fights Jack in the future, we could get that shine pretty much coming out. But I think Katsumi does deserve more. I think another hot take in the previous video was about how if Doppo died rather than Retsu, we could have actually had more focus on Katsumi for the future of the story. And I still would like to actually see that. Kaku, I guess, could get more screen time. I wouldn't really complain too much, but I don't really know what they're going to do with Kaku, apart from like the training perspective. Maybe him having a fight with another character could be pretty cool, but I don't think we're really going to get that. Baki needs a good tournament type arc because the Ratai tournament was kinda mid, and I guess the Sumo tournament was kinda mid as well. Imagine like a new maximum tournament with all the current like strong characters, including YUICHIRO being part of that. Potentially even the Death Row inmates returning. That would be like the final arc of the tournament. Potentially in like the semi-finals we have Jack vs YUICHIRO, they have a crazy close fight. And then the final is Baki vs YUICHIRO, and Baki does get that definitive win. Or even actually kills them like I talked about in the other post before. So pretty cool stuff. I would love to see another tournament arc that's like the maximum tournament. All these crazy characters going at it, super long. Not really jobber-like characters either, just the top tiers and characters we've seen before. Maybe even Ali Jr. returning, stuff like that. Great idea. YUICHIRO is the most overrated character. In a sense, as many of the fans praise him as like the absolute strongest, he can just destroy everyone based on that one introduction and how much hype he really got during that. But once again, it's really kind of hard to say as we know so little about him, and considering the little amount we know about him, you could say he's the most overrated with how much he's actually praised. OEA scales above Wildfang and both use YUICHIRO as a self-insert character. Agreed. If you know what this guy's talking about, I guess respect to you. This is a very interesting take. Never really thought of this as a possibility if I'm being honest, so no real comment.